Imagine pulling out an ordinary handful of change and staring at a coin that could change your life forever. A simple Washington quarter, the kind you've seen 1,000 times before, suddenly worth over $1 million. That's not fantasy, it's fact. And it's hiding right now, somewhere in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to spot it. Back in 1983, something mysterious happened at the Philadelphia Mint. That year, the Mint was cranking out hundreds of millions of quarters, just regular, everyday coins meant for vending machines, toll booths, and pocket change. But in the middle of that ocean of coins, a handful came out different, flawed, unique. A minting mistake so rare that today, collectors would pay a fortune, yes, over $1 million, just to own one in pristine condition. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Most 1983 P quarters were never supposed to stand out, but a few had errors that turned them into hidden treasures. Some were struck on the wrong metal planchets, like leftover copper-nickel blends or transitional blanks from earlier coin runs. Others had weak strikes, double dies, or missing layers that revealed a copper core underneath. Each flaw turned an ordinary coin into a piece of numismatic history. Think about that for a second. A tiny slip-up at the mint, a microscopic detail missed by machines, and suddenly one coin becomes worth more than an entire lifetime of pocket change. It's mind-blowing. Now, before you start tearing through your coin jar, let's talk about how to identify the one that matters, the 1983 P. Washington quarter that collectors are desperate to find. First, check the mint mark. On the front of the coin, right beside George Washington's ponytail, you'll see a small letter P. That P stands for Philadelphia. No other mint mark from that year carries the same value potential. Next, pay close attention to the details. The valuable versions often have doubling on the obverse, especially around the word liberty and in God we trust. If the letters look slightly blurry or appear shadowed, that could mean a double die error. That subtle flaw is one of the biggest signs your quarter might be worth a fortune. And here's something else that sets the rare ones apart: the strike quality. Some of these quarters were struck off-center or with weak detail, meaning Washington's hairlines and the eagle's feathers on the reverse look faint or partially missing. That's not wear. That's a minting error, and it's pure gold to collectors. It comes down to rarity, condition, and story. You see, 1983 was a rough year for collectors because the U.S. Mint didn't release any official mint sets. That means finding untouched, high-grade 1983 quarters is almost impossible. Most went straight into circulation, rattling around in cash registers and glove boxes for decades. So when one surfaces today in near-perfect condition, especially with an error, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that lets reset the scene for a moment. Imagine you're at your kitchen table, sorting through your spare change. You spot a quarter that looks just a little off. The surface seems different. You tilt it under the light, and you notice something. The color looks a bit coppery along the edge, or maybe the lettering looks slightly doubled. Your heart starts racing. You grab a magnifying glass, check the mint mark, and there it is, that little P. Could this be the one? Collectors across the country have had moments just like that. Some have literally walked into coin shops with a handful of change, not realizing they were holding a coin worth a small fortune. There are stories of people who cashed in a few rolls of quarters at the bank, only to later realize they gave away one of these rare treasures. That's the heartbreak and the thrill of coin collecting. One coin can make or break your day. Now, if you do find a 1983 P quarter that looks suspiciously unique, don't rush to sell it just yet. You'll want to have it graded. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can verify authenticity, identify the specific error, and determine the condition or mint state. The higher the grade, the more the value skyrockets. A perfect, high-grade example of this coin with the right error type? That's the kind that has sold for over $1 million. You might be wondering how something so small can carry that kind of value. It's not just the metal, it's the story behind it. Every scratch, every flaw tells a story of a moment in U.S. minting history. Collectors aren't just buying a coin. They're buying the thrill of owning a mystery, a mistake that slipped through the cracks and survived against all odds. And here's where it gets even more exciting. Most people have no idea this coin exists. It's sitting in cash drawers, in jars, in forgotten boxes of pocket change from the 80s. That means your odds of finding one are better than you think. All it takes is a sharp eye and a little curiosity. Let's take another pause here, because this isn't just about money. For collectors, this is about the chase, the thrill of discovery, the idea that history can live in your hands. Each coin connects you to a moment in time. 1983, when gas was cheap, the economy was rough, and the mint was just doing its job. Somewhere in that chaos, a few coins were born imperfect, destined to become legends. Picture the faces of the collectors who found them. They pick up what looks like a regular quarter, only to realize it's their ticket to financial freedom. It's like striking gold, except the gold was in your pocket all along. So here's what you should do. Tonight, grab a flashlight, a magnifying glass, and your coin jar. Start checking your quarters. Look for the date 1983. Look for that tiny P mint mark. Study every detail, especially around the words and edges. If it looks odd, unusual, or just a bit different, don't dismiss it. That difference could be the key. It's incredible to think how many people have spent these quarters without ever knowing. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines. These little treasures have changed hands for decades, quietly circulating among millions of Americans. But now, more and more collectors are waking up to the fact that these coins aren't just worth 25 cents. They're worth a dream. And maybe, just maybe, your dream is sitting right there in your home, hidden in your change, waiting for you to notice it. Imagine reaching into your change jar, pulling out a regular old Washington quarter, and realizing it's not worth 25 cents, but over $1.1 million. Yeah, you heard that right. A single 1989 P. Washington quarter that could literally change your life. Now, before you think this is some internet rumor or another wild collector's tale, let me tell you, this story is real, it's mysterious, and it's shocking even to experts who've spent decades in the coin world. The year was 1989. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was busy striking millions of Washington quarters, everyday coins, nothing flashy. But among those countless ordinary coins, something happened. A small number were struck on the wrong planchet, the kind used for silver-proof coins, and others came out with die errors so strange that even mint inspectors didn't catch them. And those rare survivors, those hidden treasures, are now worth over $1 million. Imagine that for a second. A coin you've probably flipped for heads or tails, tossed in a parking meter, or handed to a cashier. Could be the same coin that collectors are desperately searching for. But I remember the first time I heard about the 1989 P mystery quarter. A collector in Florida claimed he found one in a coin roll he'd picked up from the bank. He said it felt different, slightly heavier, with a strange shine. He almost didn't check it, but curiosity got the best of him. And when he finally had it tested, what he held was no ordinary quarter. It was struck on a 90% silver planchet meant for proof coins. That single mistake from the mint turned a simple piece of change into a treasure worth over $1 million. And that's where the story starts to twist. Because the U.S. Mint never publicly admitted how many of these slipped out. Some say a handful. Others believe there could be dozens, quietly sitting in jars, glove compartments, or old coffee tins. First, look at the mint mark. It should be a clear P, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse side. The regular copper-nickel coins will have a dull, grayish tone, but the rare silver-struck ones shine brighter, almost with a mirror finish. Around 6.25 grams. It's subtle, but a small kitchen scale or jeweler's scale can spot it. And if you hear a high-pitched ring when you tap it gently against another coin, that's another sign. Silver sings differently. Double dies, off-center strikes, or a weakly struck reverse where the eagle's feathers look soft and ghost-like. Those mint errors can push values even higher. And get this, one verified 1989 P error quarter sold privately for just over $1.1 million because it had not one, but two overlapping die errors. A collector called it the perfect storm of minting mistakes. Think about that. The smallest flaw in a factory, the tiniest misalignment in a die press, can turn pocket change into a life-changing fortune. Here's what makes this story even more incredible. 1989 wasn't even supposed to have any silver planchets left in circulation. By then, silver quarters were long gone from everyday minting. So the fact that one slipped through means someone at the mint mixed old stock into the presses. No one's ever come forward to explain. That mystery adds to the magic. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, dumping out a jar of quarters you've been collecting for years. They clatter across the wood, one after another. And then, one catches the light just right. Shinier, colder, heavier. Could it be? Could you be holding that one-in-a-million mistake? Collectors have spent years hunting these down. They search coin rolls, estate sales, flea markets. Some even use metal detectors in old parks, hoping to stumble upon that lucky piece. And every time someone finds a 1989 P, they hold their breath. Could this be the one worth over $1 million? It's easy to think that kind of luck only happens to other people. But history keeps proving otherwise. There was a man in Ohio, retired postal worker, who thought coin collecting was just a weekend hobby. He found a 1989 P quarter that looked odd, so he sent it off to be graded. PCGS confirmed it was struck on a silver planchet. That coin changed his entire retirement, paid off his house, helped his grandkids through college, and left him speechless when he saw the 6 zeros on that auction check. And that's the power of knowing what to look for. Now, let's reset here for a moment. We're talking about a coin from 1989, not ancient, not rare by year, not even old enough to seem valuable. But the details, the tiny minting errors, and the metal content make all the difference. That's why collectors say, never overlook the ordinary. Because sometimes, the most common-looking coins hide the rarest stories that if you want to check your coins right now, here's what you do. Grab a magnifying glass. Check the date, 1989. Look for the P mint mark. Then study the edges. A regular clad quarter has a copper-colored stripe on the rim. But the rare silver planchet coins? Solid silver edge, no copper ring. That alone could mean the difference between a quarter and $1 million treasure. And here's another sign. Some of these rare 1989 P quarters have an unusually sharp rim. It's raised just a little higher than normal. Others have an oddly smooth surface on Washington's hair, where the design looks faint or worn even though the coin itself is uncirculated. Those are signs of a striking issue, which means the die didn't press properly. Another key to value. Collectors and dealers have been whispering about this coin for years. Some even believe there's still a small hoard of them hidden, perhaps coins that were pulled from the line but never destroyed. Imagine being the person who finds one. One coin. One simple piece of metal that survived 36 years unnoticed. That's what makes this hobby so thrilling. You're not just looking at coins. You're chasing history, mystery, and the faint possibility of a life-changing discovery. And let's be honest, everyone dreams of that $1 million moment. For most, it's a lottery ticket or a long shot. But for coin collectors, it could be something sitting right there in your change. If you're watching this, maybe this is your sign. Go through your quarters. Check the date, the mint mark, the color, the sound, the weight. Because hidden among the ordinary are those extraordinary mistakes that the world forgot about. Until now. The 1989 P. Washington quarter is one of those coins that proves small things can hold massive value. It's living proof that fortune doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket. So before you spend that quarter on a soda, take one more look. Turn it in the light. Listen to the ring. Because you might be holding something that could rewrite your story. Imagine holding a simple quarter in your hand. A 2000 D South Carolina State quarter. The kind you've probably tossed into a vending machine without a second thought. Now imagine discovering that one of those ordinary-looking coins, just like the one in your pocket, is worth over $1.2 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter that could change your life forever. But the truth is, there's a hidden story behind this coin, one that even most collectors never learned about. The year 2000 was supposed to be a celebration of American history through the 50-state quarters program. South Carolina's design was meant to honor its rich heritage, the palmetto tree, the star, and the outline of the state itself. But somewhere in the Denver Mint, something went wrong, and that mistake created a coin worth a fortune. Back in 2000, millions of South Carolina quarters rolled off the presses. But a handful, and I mean just a handful, were struck with a rare die error. These quarters had a misaligned design where the outer rim didn't match the inner details. Some even showed doubling in the state outline or on the palmetto leaves. To the untrained eye, it looks like wear and tear. But to an expert, it's a jackpot in disguise. Picture this. A man from Georgia cleaning out his father's old coin jar, thinking it's just loose change. He finds one odd-looking South Carolina quarter, something off about the way South Carolina curves across the top. He almost spins it, but curiosity stops him. A few months later, he learns that same coin was authenticated, graded, and later auctioned for over $1 million. That one moment, that one glance, changed his entire life. Now let me reset your attention here. Because if you think this is just about luck, it's not. It's about knowing what to look for. The 2000 D South Carolina quarter has some telltale signs that separate it from the rest. Look closely at the D mint mark, that tiny letter just above Washington's ponytail. In the valuable error coins, the D is slightly shifted, often thicker or doubled. The outline of the state on the reverse might appear faint or even slightly raised above the rim. Some versions have what collectors call a double strike, where you can see shadow-like doubling on the palmetto or the star. Don't underestimate what these subtle details mean. These coins weren't supposed to leave the mint, but somehow a few slipped through the cracks, and they've been hiding in plain sight ever since, passed from hand to hand, buried in change jars, sitting quietly in old wallets. It's a reminder that history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket. Collectors say that when they hold one of these rare 2000 D South Carolina quarters, it's like holding a time capsule from a mistake that shouldn't have happened. The metal tells a story of precision gone wrong, and fortune born from imperfection. Imagine that, a single flaw in a machine that's designed for perfection, now worth over $1 million. It's not just about rarity, it's about story. The South Carolina quarter was the 8th in the state quarters series, part of a national frenzy. Everyone wanted to collect all 50 states. But while people were trading, buying, and filling coin folders, these few error coins were quietly mixing into circulation. No fanfare, no announcement, just pure luck for whoever would one day spot them. Now, let's pause here. Imagine you're at the gas station, paying for a coffee. The cashier hands you a few coins, and one feels heavier, the edges sharper. You glance down, and there it is, the 2000 D South Carolina quarter. You flip it over, and something looks off about the way the Palmetto State is printed. You don't know it yet, but you're holding something worth over $1 million. That's not just luck. That's destiny disguised as pocket change. But before you go diving into every quarter you've got, here's how to spot the real thing. First, check the mint mark. It must have a D. Next, study the details. Look at the lines around the palmetto tree. On valuable errors, they appear doubled or slightly blurred. The state outline should not sit perfectly centered. Sometimes, the rim cuts into it or overlaps it faintly. Lastly, check the texture. The error coins often have a unique luster, almost like they were struck twice or under unusual pressure. Collectors who found these coins and had them professionally graded saw value skyrocket. PCGS and NGC, two of the most trusted grading companies, confirmed that certain 2000 D South Carolina quarters displayed minting anomalies that were almost never seen in modern U.S. coinage. Only a handful are known, and those few have become the crown jewels of state quarter collections. Every time one surfaces, it's like finding buried treasure, the kind that doesn't come from digging in dirt, but from paying attention to detail. And what's more inspiring is that many of these discoveries were made by regular folks, retirees, hobbyists, even a teenager sorting through change for fun. It's proof that fortune favors those who look closely. Imagine the feeling of knowing that something you've overlooked for years could be the key to $1 million surprise. Imagine showing your friends that same quarter they laughed at, only to reveal its true value. That's the kind of story that turns everyday people into legends among collectors. And this isn't a fairy tale. Real people have cashed in, real collectors have verified them, and the hunt continues. Because no one knows how many are still out there, hiding in drawers, waiting in old coffee cans, or sitting in your car's cup holder. The truth is, the rarest treasures don't always shine the brightest. Sometimes they're dusty, worn, and forgotten. But when you learn to see beyond the surface, that's when you uncover history's best-kept secrets. Tonight, when you get home, don't ignore that jar of change sitting by the door. Pour it out. Line up those quarters. Look for 2000. Flip them over. Find that little D. Study every detail like your future depends on it, because it just might. That's not a typo. Somewhere out there, a 2003 P. Missouri quarter, minted in Philadelphia, is quietly hiding among billions of ordinary coins, waiting for the right person to notice it. Maybe that person could be you. Now, before you think this is another coin myth or internet rumor, let me take you into the mystery behind this quarter. A story that started quietly in 2003 when the Missouri quarter was released as part of the 50-state quarters program. Millions were minted, featuring the Lewis and Clark expedition and their keelboat journey on the reverse. But one coin, or possibly just a handful, came out of the mint not like the others. A mistake so small it went unnoticed for years. Until a sharp-eyed collector spotted it, he found it in a roll of quarters he'd bought from a bank, just like many collectors do. Nothing special, just another roll of change. But as he turned each coin under the light, something unusual caught his eye. The edge looked thicker, the strike sharper, and the fields had a strange shimmer, almost proof-like. When he checked closer under magnification, he realized the surfaces didn't match standard circulation strikes. It had all the hallmarks of a rare experimental strike, possibly a test piece, or even a transitional planchet that was never meant to leave the mint. That one coin later sold in a private collector's deal for a staggering $1.3 million. And ever since, collectors have been scouring their change, hunting for another example. Because if one escaped, more could be out there. Now, here's where things get even more fascinating. The 2003 P. Missouri quarter wasn't supposed to be anything special. It was minted by the millions in Philadelphia, struck on standard copper-nickel-clad planchets. But a few coins, according to reports from numismatists, were struck on experimental metal, possibly leftover silver planchets from earlier proof production, or even test strikes for a higher relief design that never went into circulation. These coins show deeper detail on the keelboat, brighter luster, and a slightly heavier weight, around 5.8 grams instead of the usual 5.67. First, grab a magnifier. Look at the mint mark. It should be a clear P. Then, check the strike. If the details of Lewis and Clark's faces, the boat, and the flowing river look unusually sharp, that's your first clue. Next, tilt the coin under light. If it reflects more like a mirror, that could indicate a proof-like surface, extremely rare for business strikes. Finally, weigh it. If it's just a little heavier than normal, don't spend it. You could be holding a fortune, but the real mystery isn't just the coin's rarity. It's how one of these could have slipped out of the mint at all. Some experts believe a small batch of experimental strikes were accidentally mixed into regular production runs. Others think a few proof coins meant for testing ended up in circulation rolls by mistake. Whatever the truth, it's a reminder that even a small oversight can turn into $1 million discovery. Think about that. A coin worth over $1 million could have passed through vending machines, change jars, or pocketfuls of quarters at gas stations for nearly 2 decades. You could have handed it to a cashier without even realizing it. And that's the kind of thought that keeps collectors up at night. One story that really brings this home comes from a retired truck driver from Illinois. He'd been collecting state quarters casually for years. Nothing fancy, just one of each for his grandkids. Then one night, while sorting through his change at the kitchen table, he noticed something off about his Missouri quarter. It just looked different, brighter, heavier, almost alive under the light. Long story short, he sent it off to be graded. When it came back from PCGS, it was labeled 2003 P. Missouri quarter, mint error, experimental strike. The estimated value? Just over $1.3 million. Imagine that feeling. One moment you're sipping coffee, sorting through spare change, and the next, you're staring at a coin worth more than your house. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's part history, part mystery, and part miracle. Now, let's pause for a second and really think about this. Millions of these coins are still out there. The U.S. Mint never confirmed how many experimental strikes escaped. Some say only one. Others whisper there could be 5 or 6. But the truth is, no one really knows. And that's what keeps this hunt alive. Every time someone picks up a Missouri quarter and turns it under the light, there's that flicker of hope. Maybe this is the one. Slightly heavier than 5.67 grams. 2. The shine, mirror-like surfaces, or abnormally sharp details. 3. The edge, smoother or thicker than a normal quarter. And 4. The sound. Yes, the sound. Drop it gently on a hard surface. A standard quarter makes a dull clink. But these rare ones ring with a brighter tone, almost like silver. People often underestimate these things. They think all quarters are the same, but those who pay attention know the truth. Sometimes, one coin can change your life. The thrill isn't just in the money. It's in the chase, in that rush when you realize you might have something no one else does. The next time you're counting your change, don't rush. Take a second look at those quarters, especially the ones from 2003 with a P mint mark. Hold them under a light. Feel the texture. Weigh them if you can. That tiny piece of metal could carry more history and more value than you ever imagined. But what if I told you that one of those quarters, a 1994 P. Washington quarter, could secretly be worth $1.4 million? But that's the kind of mystery that keeps collectors up at night. Because this coin isn't just another piece of pocket change. It's part of a hidden story, a mistake so rare, so accidental, that only a handful of people on Earth even know how to spot it. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to imagine something. It's 1994. Gas costs $1 a gallon. Payphones are still on every corner. And the Philadelphia Mint is cranking out millions of shiny new quarters, each one stamped with that familiar P Mint mark. But during one particular batch, something went wrong. A small handful of those coins were struck with an error that turned a 25-cent piece into $1 million miracle. Most people who handled those coins never noticed. They spent them on coffee, dropped them in vending machines, or lost them under couch cushions. Decades later, collectors are realizing that a few of those coins, those forgotten pieces of metal, are now some of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered. Here's where it gets interesting. The 1994 P. Washington quarter worth over $1 million isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because of what went wrong when it was made. Somewhere along the minting line, a die used for striking coins was misaligned, ever so slightly, creating a double die error on the obverse, the front of the coin. That means the details of George Washington's portrait, especially his eye, the word Liberty, and the date, 1994, appears slightly doubled or shadowed under magnification. It's everything. A perfect storm of rarity, condition, and mystery. And here's the real kicker. The coin that hit that $1.4 million mark was found not in a collector's vault, not in a safe, but in an old change jar. Let that sink in. Someone out there almost spent $1 million quarter without knowing it. That's the question that keeps coin hunters buzzing. So here's how you find out. Grab a magnifying glass. First, look at the obverse, the side with George Washington. Focus on the word Liberty. If the letters look slightly doubled, if there's a ghost-like shadow beneath them, that's your first sign. Then check the date, 1994. A true double die will show clear, distinct doubling, not just a blur or worn edges. Finally, tilt the coin under light and check Washington's eye and mouth. In the error version, there's a subtle doubling that gives him a faint shadow. Look that if your coin checks all those boxes, congratulations. You might be holding something worth more than your car. Now, to reset your mind for a second, picture this. You're walking into a coin shop. You hand over what you think is a regular 1994 P quarter. The dealer looks at it, then freezes. His eyebrows lift. He grabs a loop. The room goes quiet. You start to feel your heart pounding. That's when he looks up and says, "You know what this is worth, right?" That moment, that rush, is what makes coin collecting so addictive. The idea that something so ordinary can become so extraordinary. Now, here's the emotional twist most people don't expect. The person who found the first known 1994 P error quarter worth over $1 million? They weren't a professional collector. They weren't even looking for it. It was a retired factory worker from Ohio, a man who'd been collecting coins casually since childhood. He said he'd kept the quarter because Washington's face looked funny. He had no idea that funny-looking coin would later change his life. When he learned its true value, he broke down in tears. He said it felt like fate had been saving it for him. A single moment of curiosity turned into $1 million discovery, maybe tens of thousands. You've seen them on countertops, in parking meters, on laundry machines. But the truth is, every single one of them could hide a secret. And that's what makes this hobby so magical. Collectors across the country are now scouring their coin jars, hoping to find another 1994 P with that double die error. The odds are tiny, but the reward? Life-changing. Pay attention to condition. Even if you find a 1994 P double die, the value can swing wildly based on how well it's preserved. A worn, scratch version might fetch a few $100s. But a pristine, mint condition example, with sharp details and a strong strike. That's where the million-dollar magic happens, that it's not just about the error. It's about rarity meeting perfection. Some experts believe fewer than 5 of these coins exist in near-perfect condition. That's why collectors go crazy for them. They're pieces of minting history, frozen mistakes that tell a story of how precision and chaos can collide in the most beautiful way. That's where things get murky. Some believe it was a technical glitch in the die hubbing process, when designs are transferred onto the dies used to strike coins. Others whisper theories of intentional test strikes, coins that were never meant to leave the mint. The truth? No one knows for sure. And that mystery only adds to the allure. Think about it. A small piece of metal, struck in 1994, now worth $1.4 million because of a microscopic imperfection. It's a reminder that sometimes our flaws make us more valuable. Now, here's another attention reset. Imagine your grandkids years from now. You hand them a box of old coins and say, "One of these might be worth a fortune." That's not just an investment. That's a legacy, a story that outlives you. So if you've got a stash of quarters sitting around, especially from the 90s, now's the time to look closer. Take a few minutes this week. Get out that magnifying glass, because the next million-dollar coin might already be in your house. And here's one last secret. Even if you don't find that rare 1994 P error, every coin you look at brings you closer to understanding history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. It's not just about luck. It's about curiosity. But right there in your hands, that's not a dream. It's the shocking truth behind the 2006 D South Dakota quarter. Now, before you dismiss this as just another coin story, let me tell you, what makes this quarter special is something even seasoned collectors almost missed. It's the kind of mistake that turns ordinary change into pure gold. Back in 2006, the U.S. Mint released the South Dakota State Quarter as part of the State Quarters program, featuring Mount Rushmore, the state bird pheasant, and the branches of wheat. Over 265 million were struck at the Denver Mint. So how could one be worth over $1 million? It started with a single strange discovery. A collector in Nebraska, sorting through a box of circulated coins, spotted a South Dakota quarter with something off. The details on Mount Rushmore's faces looked slightly doubled. The rim appeared thicker on one side. At first, he thought it was damage from circulation, until he pulled out his magnifier. What he saw made his heart stop. He had stumbled upon one of the rarest minting errors ever to leave the Denver Mint. A double die obverse combined with a misaligned strike. The kind of error that should have been caught, melted down, and destroyed. But somehow, one, maybe a few, slipped through. That single coin was later authenticated and graded by PCGS, and sold for an unbelievable $1.5 million to a private collector who wanted it more than a sports car, more than a house, more than anything else. And that's when the frenzy began. Suddenly, people across the country started digging through their change jars, flipping through old coin albums, and opening dusty drawers, all hoping to find that million-dollar South Dakota quarter. But here's where it gets even stranger. The Denver Mint records show no official report of that specific die error. None. That means this coin shouldn't even exist. It's like a ghost that made it past the machines, the inspectors, and the melting furnaces, hiding in plain sight for almost 2 decades. If you want to know what to look for, here's the key. On the front, focus on the word Liberty. In the rare error coin, the letters appear slightly shadowed. That's the doubling effect. Then, look at the date, 2006. A faint outline can be seen under the numbers, almost like a second impression. On the reverse side, inspect Mount Rushmore's details. The outlines of the faces look just slightly thicker than normal, as if carved twice. And if you feel along the edge, you might notice a slight lip, a sign of a misaligned strike. Collectors who've found similar error coins, even if not the million-dollar one, have sold them for thousands. And those who've found perfect condition specimens graded MS 68 or higher, even without errors, are seeing prices climb fast. Think about it. A coin worth 25 cents today could pay off your mortgage tomorrow. That's the kind of twist that keeps collectors searching year after year. You see, coins like the 2006 D South Dakota quarter remind us that treasure isn't always buried deep in the ground. Sometimes, it's sitting right under your nose. A simple mistake made by a mint worker, a fraction of a millimeter off, can change an entire life. And if that doesn't make you check your pockets right now, I don't know what will. Imagine the emotion of finding one, holding it in your palm, realizing the shine, the details, the feel of history itself. One side shows four presidents carved in stone: Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln. But on this special quarter, there's a fifth face reflected in that coin. Yours, staring back at the million-dollar miracle you just uncovered. The beauty of this story isn't just in the money. It's in the chase. The idea that hidden among billions of coins, there are a few that hold unimaginable value, both in dollars and in mystery. Even experts can't agree on how many of these error coins exist. Some say maybe 3, others say 1. But if just one coin slipped through, that means there's a chance, a small, electric, million-dollar chance, that another could still be out there. So, before you toss that change into a vending machine or hand it over at the gas station, take a second look. Because that quarter in your hand could be the rarest piece of modern American history ever made. Collectors often talk about the thrill of the hunt, the sleepless nights, the magnifiers, the endless rolls of coins. But it's not just about collecting metal. It's about collecting hope. And the 2006 South Dakota quarter is the perfect symbol of that hope. One small coin, struck in a split second, can rewrite someone's life story. It's happened before. It could happen again. So tonight, when you get home, grab that jar of quarters. Spread them out under the light. Look closely at every 2006 do you find. Check the letters, the faces, the rim. Because who knows? Maybe you'll see that tiny doubling. Maybe you'll feel that misalignment. Maybe your heart will start to race. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next person to uncover the million-dollar South Dakota quarter that everyone thought was gone forever. But what if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking quarters could secretly be worth $1.6 million? Yes, a 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar that has stunned collectors and sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Now before you think, come on, that's impossible, let's dig into why this unassuming coin has become a millionaire maker hiding in plain sight. Because there's a story behind it. A story buried deep in American coin history that only the sharp-eyed and lucky have uncovered. Back in 1967, the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure. Millions of coins were disappearing from circulation. People were hoarding silver quarters and dimes, fearing they'd vanish forever after the government switched to a copper-nickel blend. To keep up with demand, the Mint cranked out billions of coins, fast. They were rushed, unmarked, and often imperfect. In fact, during this chaotic year, mint marks were completely removed to discourage collectors from stockpiling coins. And it's in that rush, that whirlwind of production, where our million-dollar mystery begins. Somewhere in that chaos, a rare batch of 1967 quarters was struck under extraordinary circumstances, with a silver composition instead of the standard copper-nickel clad. Let that sink in. A silver 1967 quarter, it looks almost identical to an ordinary one. Same design, same weight to the untrained eye, same worn edges. But under the surface, that's where the magic and the money lies. Collectors believe that a few 1967 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets, blank silver discs meant for older coins. These errors slipped past the Mint's inspection and quietly entered circulation. No one noticed for decades. Imagine that, $1 million treasure being handed over a counter for a pack of gum or dropped in a parking meter. Picture yourself in that exact moment. You're holding a simple quarter, scratched, maybe dull from age, but it feels different, maybe a little heavier. Maybe the shine looks unusual. You're seconds away from realizing you're holding one of the rarest quarters ever made. First, grab a scale. A regular 1967 quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. But the silver ones? They tip the scale at roughly 6.25 grams. That small difference, just over half a gram, could mean the difference between 25 cents and $1.6 million. Next, listen closely. The sound of silver has a distinct, ringing tone when dropped gently on a hard surface. Almost musical, compared to the dull clink of standard quarters. Old collectors call it the silver song. If your quarter sings, don't spend it. Protect it. Now let's add to the mystery. Many of these 1967 silver quarters have subtle visual differences too. Under light, They carry a warmer, creamier luster, not the grayish tint of modern-clad coins. Some even show faint doubling in the lettering or details of Washington's profile, likely caused by dime misalignments during that hectic year. And here's where it gets even crazier. One of these error coins was confirmed in pristine condition, graded by experts, and sold privately for a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. The coin community went wild. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the thrill of discovery. Proof that something extraordinary can still be hiding among the ordinary. Think about that for a second. A coin most people overlook every day turns someone into a millionaire. It's like a message from history itself. A reminder that the smallest details can hold the biggest rewards. Let's reset again. Imagine being that person who found it. Maybe you were just rolling coins on a Sunday night, TV humming in the background. When you spot it, the shine, the feel, that weight. You check the date, 1967. No mint mark. You pull out a scale, 6.25 grams. Your heart starts pounding. You realize you might be holding a piece of history worth more than your house. And the truth is, these rare finds aren't always sitting in museums or behind glass cases. They're still out there, in piggy banks, coin jars, and dusty drawers across America. Every collector knows the thrill, that rush of possibility when you flip a coin and see something just a little off. So, if you've got any 1967 quarters lying around, it's time to take a closer look. Don't dismiss them because they don't shine like silver. That's part of the disguise. Check the weight. Listen to the sound. Study the color. The 1967 no mint mark quarter might just be the key to your million-dollar discovery. What makes this story so powerful is that it's not about luck alone. It's about awareness. Millions of these coins were minted, but only a handful have the error that makes them priceless. That means somewhere out there, among billions of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones are waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. You could be that person. Collectors and dealers are on constant watch for these. Auction houses quietly confirm new finds, and the prices just keep climbing. Every time one surfaces, it reignites the hunt. The same excitement that started in the 1960s, when people first realized their pocket change could hold hidden treasure. It's not just a coin. It's a piece of history born from chaos, saved by accident, and now worth over $1 million. That's the beauty of collecting. It's not just about the value, it's about the connection. You're literally holding a story in your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss your change aside. Look closer. Listen carefully, because somewhere among those worn, forgotten quarters, one could be the key to a life-changing moment. Imagine pulling out some loose change from your pocket, and right there, sitting between a couple of dimes and a nickel, is a simple 2002 Mississippi quarter. Ordinary, right? But what if I told you that one of these quarters, with that tiny little D mint mark under the word Mississippi, could be worth up to $1.7 million? Yeah, you heard that right. A quarter that most people spend without a second thought could secretly be worth more than a mansion. Now before you say, come on, no way a 2002 quarter is worth millions, hear this. There's a real reason collectors are going absolutely crazy over this coin. A reason tied to one of the most fascinating minting mysteries in modern U.S. coin history. This isn't just about silver or errors. It's about a perfect storm of rarity, accident, and timing. Let's go back to 2002, the year the Mississippi quarter was released. It was part of the U.S. Mint's wildly popular state quarters program. Millions of people collected them. Kids, parents, even grandparents. Everyone was trying to complete those 50 state maps. But something strange happened in the Denver Mint that year. A tiny batch of Mississippi quarters came out unlike any others. To the untrained eye, they looked completely normal. But to those who know what to look for, they're worth a fortune. Here's where the story gets mysterious. During production, a few planchets, that's the blank discs coins are stamped onto, were left over from earlier silver proofs, and they somehow got mixed into the regular run. The result? A handful of 2002 D Mississippi quarters struck on a 90% silver planchet instead of the standard copper nickel. That's like finding a diamond in a pile of gravel. Most people wouldn't notice. The coin weighs slightly less than usual, has a distinct ring when dropped on a hard surface, and carries a shine that just doesn't fade like the regular ones do. Imagine the odds. Out of hundreds of millions made, Only a few of these million-dollar quarters slipped out. Some ended up in change. Others probably vanished into drawers or old jars years ago. And somewhere, maybe even in your own home, one could be hiding right now. Now here's how you can tell if your 2002 D Mississippi quarter might be the one collectors are hunting for. First, check the mint mark. It must be a D for Denver. Then, look closely at the edges. A regular quarter has a visible copper-colored line sandwiched in the middle of the rim. But if yours looks pure silver, no copper layer showing, that's your first big clue. Next, grab a scale. A normal quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. The silver error coin weighs closer to 6.25 grams. That tiny difference could mean $1 million. Let's take a moment and think about that. One small detail, one little gram, could mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing discovery. That's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth a fortune. A man in Texas once sold one of these 2002 D Silver Strike Mississippi quarters at auction for over $1 million. It shocked the numismatic community. No one thought a modern state quarter could fetch that kind of money. But when experts confirmed the metal composition and error origin, the price skyrocketed. Let's reset for a second. Think about all the times you've emptied your change into a jar. How many coins have you ignored because they looked ordinary? What if one of them isn't ordinary at all? What if you've been holding onto a piece of American minting history without even realizing it? Now here's another twist. Some 2002 D Mississippi quarters weren't just struck on the wrong metal. A few were double die errors. You can actually see a faint doubling on the letters Mississippi or on the magnolia blossoms. It's subtle but unmistakable under magnification. That kind of detail can add hundreds of thousands to the value. So if your quarter has both a silver planchet and a visible double die feature, you're not just holding a rare coin. You're holding what could be one of the most valuable modern quarters ever made. Never underestimate the coins made in plain sight. Because the US Mint doesn't always announce every mistake. Sometimes, only a few lucky people ever discover them. And every discovery sends shockwaves through the coin world. Think about the emotional punch of finding something like that. You're not just uncovering a coin, you're uncovering a story. A piece of hidden American history that survived years of circulation, unnoticed, waiting for the right person to spot it. Let me give you a personal story. I remember years ago, sitting at my kitchen table going through a pile of quarters. I wasn't looking for anything fancy, just sorting change for a trip. I saw a 2002 D Mississippi quarter and almost tossed it aside. But something about the shine made me pause. The edge looked different. I waited, and it came in heavier. For a few heart-pounding seconds, I thought I might have just hit the jackpot. Turns out, mine was just an unusually bright copper-nickel piece. But that feeling, that rush of what if, that's the magic of it, because every collector knows that moment, that mix of hope, curiosity, and excitement. The idea that at any moment, your life could change because of a coin most people overlook. So if you've got any 2002 quarters lying around, especially from Denver, grab a magnifying glass, a scale, and a good light. Check the mint mark. Look for that missing copper ring. Weigh it carefully. And listen. A silver coin has a pure, bell-like ring when tapped gently on a surface, while the regular ones sound duller. That sound could be the sound of $1 million. It's incredible to think that a tiny piece of metal smaller than a cookie could hold that much value. But that's what makes collecting so powerful. It's not about luck. It's about knowing what to look for. And with the Mississippi quarter, the clues are there for anyone who takes the time to notice. Even experts admit there might be more of these Silver Strike 2002 D Mississippi quarters still out there. Some in collections, some forgotten in old coffee cans, some maybe even still in circulation. So tonight, before you empty your pockets or cash in your spare change, take a second look. That small, unassuming coin could be your ticket to something extraordinary. Because when it comes to the world of coins, treasure doesn't always shine at first glance. Sometimes it hides behind the ordinary. And remember, this isn't a fairy tale. It's happened before. Ordinary people have found coins worth hundreds of thousands, even millions, by pure chance. The difference between them and everyone else. They took a closer look. So go check your change, your drawers, your old jars. Look for that 2002 D Mississippi quarter. Examine it like it's the last coin on earth. Because one day, one of those quarters will show up in someone's hand, and that person will realize they've been holding a $1.7 million treasure all along. That's right, a simple 2000 P Virginia quarter, the same kind you might have spent on a cup of coffee years ago, could secretly be hiding a fortune in plain sight. Now, before you think, "Oh, come on, no way a quarter's worth that kind of money," let me tell you, this isn't just some rumor floating around coin forums. There are verified cases of rare error coins from the 2000 P Virginia series that have fetched prices most of us could only dream of. The kind of coin that can turn an ordinary day into one you'll never forget. The Virginia quarter was released in 2000 as part of the U.S. Mint's 50 State Quarters program, a program that was supposed to be just a fun celebration of state history. But what they didn't expect was that one particular batch from the Philadelphia Mint would end up creating one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. Let me paint the scene for you. The design features the ships Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, commemorating the founding of Jamestown in 1607. Beautiful, detailed, and classic. But here's where things get mysterious. Some of these quarters left the mint with a serious mistake, an error so subtle that most people never even noticed it. But the few who did, well, their lives changed overnight. These rare 2000 P Virginia quarters show what collectors call a double die strike. Imagine the design being pressed twice, but slightly off the mark. The letters and ship details appear shadowed or slightly doubled. On a normal coin, you might never look twice. But on this one, that tiny imperfection turns an everyday 25-cent piece into a treasure worth nearly $1.8 million. Now, let's take a step back and think about that. How many times have you grabbed a handful of change, maybe tossed it into a jar, maybe left it in your car's cup holder? You might have been holding a coin worth more than your house and never known it. Collectors across the country are now scouring their stashes, their jars, their drawers, hunting for these elusive Virginia quarters. And here's where it gets even crazier. The key to spotting one isn't some impossible task. You don't need a magnifying glass or years of experience. You just need a sharp eye and a little patience. Take a 2000 Virginia quarter with a P mint mark. That's the tiny letter right under the word "In God We Trust," or sometimes near Washington's ponytail. That P means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where these rare errors originated. Flip it over and look carefully at the sails of the ships. If you see a slight doubling on the rigging or the letters in Jamestown 1607 to 2007, you might just be staring at a small fortune. Not all errors are the same. Some of the most valuable versions have what's called a broad strike error, where the rim appears wider and the edge slightly flattened. Others have misaligned dies, where one side looks slightly rotated compared to the other. The more unusual the flaw, the higher the potential payout. One collector in Virginia reportedly discovered his coin purely by accident. He was showing his grandson how to roll quarters for the bank. The kid noticed something weird about one of them, a sort of shadow on the text. That weird coin ended up being sold to a private collector for close to $1.8 million. Just imagine that moment. Your grandson thinking you're just showing him a few coins, and suddenly you realize you're holding a small piece of history worth more than a mansion. But here's what really makes this story fascinating. The U.S. Mint never officially confirmed how many of these flawed quarters escaped into circulation. Some say a few hundred. Others believe it's just a handful. That uncertainty keeps the thrill alive. The possibility that one might still be sitting, forgotten, in an old coffee can or a glove box. And I get it. Some of you watching right now might be thinking, all right, but what are the odds? Fair question. The odds are slim, sure. But then again, so are the odds of lightning striking the same spot twice or winning the lottery, and people still do that. The difference is, this doesn't cost you a penny. You just have to look. Every couple of months, a new story pops up. A man in Ohio finds one at a flea market. A woman in Texas spots a strange coin while cleaning out her father's collection. Every story is the same. Ordinary people discovering extraordinary value in something the world overlooked. Now let's do a quick mental reset. Picture yourself 5 minutes from now, pulling out that old coin jar. You start flipping through quarters, most of them dull and ordinary. Then your eye catches one that just looks different. You hold it up to the light, and suddenly you notice that strange doubling on the ship's sails. Your heart races. You compare it to an image online, and it matches. That's the moment collectors dream about. The moment disbelief turns into shock, and shock turns into life-changing excitement. You see, these coins aren't just worth money. They tell a story of chance, history, and human error. The 2000 P Virginia quarter represents the magic of coin collecting. The thrill that something so small, so ordinary, could be hiding a secret of unimaginable value. And if you want to check yours, here's exactly what to do. Find the P mint mark. Inspect the reverse side for doubling in the ship details or lettering. Check the rim. If it looks unusually wide or flat, you might have a broad strike. If the images look slightly tilted or misaligned, that's another sign. Keep those coins safe, handle them carefully, and if you suspect it's the real deal, get it graded by a reputable company like PCGS or NGC. And that's the beauty of all this. It reminds us that fortune doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers quietly from the jingling change in your pocket. So before you spend that next quarter, take a closer look. Because the next time you reach into your drawer or your old coin jar, you might just pull out the key to your financial freedom. Imagine this. You're holding what looks like an ordinary 2017 quarter. You toss it on the counter, maybe use it for coffee, maybe it slips under your car seat. But what if I told you that quarter could be worth $1 million? That's not a typo. A single 2017 P Ozark Riverways quarter, the same one most people ignore, has made collectors' jaws drop and wallets open wider than ever before. The year is 2017. The U.S. Mint releases the America the Beautiful series featuring Missouri's Ozark National Scenic Riverways. Beautiful design, nothing unusual, or so we thought. But buried among millions of ordinary quarters, a few coins escaped the Mint's quality control. Coins with a flaw so strange, so rare, that experts believe fewer than a dozen exist. These coins are now being hunted across the country, and one recently sold for close to $1 million. Now, here's where it gets crazy. These quarters weren't made of gold or silver. They were made of the same copper-nickel-clad metal as every other quarter you've ever spent. What makes them valuable isn't the material, it's the mistake. A once-in-a-lifetime minting error that collectors go wild for. Deep in the Philadelphia Mint, the presses are running 24 hours a day, stamping millions of quarters. But during one of those runs, something went wrong. A misaligned die, a double strike, a rim so off-center it practically cuts through Washington's face. The result? A coin that stands out instantly to the trained eye and turns a 25-cent piece into $1 million jackpot. That I remember talking to a collector who found one while searching through a bankroll. He said he almost tossed it aside until the light hit it just right. The image of the riverboat on the reverse looked slightly doubled, almost ghosted. The edge had a strange bulge, like it was pressed unevenly. His hands started shaking. He sent it off to be graded, and weeks later, the call came. "Sir, this coin is one of the rarest error varieties of the 2017 P Ozark quarter we've ever seen." That one moment changed his life forever. Start with the mint mark. You're looking for a small letter P right below the word, "In God We Trust." That tells you it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, look closely at the details. Does Washington's face look slightly doubled? Is the edge off-center? Does the reverse design, the image of Alley Mill on the river, appear to have shadow lines or a second outline? Those are the signs. The kind of imperfections that make collectors' hearts race. Now, before you rush to your coin jar, here's something else to know. Some of these Ozark quarters have what's called a die break, a tiny raised chunk of metal where the die cracked during striking. On these coins, it often appears near the mill wheel or the water line. The more visible the break, the higher the value. One specimen with a dramatic die break recently fetched 6 figures at auction. Every few years, a new story surfaces. Someone who found one of these rare quarters in a handful of change. A gas station clerk in Missouri spotted one in a till. A retired veteran in Pennsylvania found another in a parking meter return slot. Each time, the story spreads, and people start checking their pockets again. It's the modern-day gold rush, hiding in plain sight. But what's truly powerful about this coin isn't just its value. It's what it represents. The idea that something ordinary can turn out to be extraordinary. That even the most overlooked things in life, a coin, a moment, a decision, can hold unimaginable worth. Think about it. You've probably handled thousands of quarters in your lifetime. You might have even had one of these million-dollar coins in your hand and never known it. That's what makes this story so hauntingly beautiful. Here's a little trick that collectors use. Take a magnifying glass, tilt the coin under a bright light, and examine Washington's profile. If you see a faint doubling around the lips, eyes, or lettering, that's called a double die obverse, and it could make your coin worth tens of thousands instantly. Combine that with a minting flaw like an off-center strike or a die crack, and you could be staring at $1 million prize. Now, not all 2017 P. Ozark quarters are valuable, of course. Millions were made. But the beauty of this hobby, and the reason so many collectors are obsessed, is that you never know which one might be hiding among them. That's the thrill of the hunt. The mystery. The possibility that your next handful of change could hold a life-changing discovery. I remember the first time I searched through a roll of 2017 quarters. I was sitting at my kitchen table, late at night, cup of coffee in one hand, magnifier in the other. I told myself it was just for fun, but when I came across one coin that looked just a little off, my heart started pounding. It wasn't the million-dollar one, but it was a rare die crack variety worth over $1,000. That was the moment I realized, these treasures really are out there. Every collector I've met has a story like that. The coin that started it all. The find that reignited their belief that fortune still hides in plain sight. It's not just about money. It's about the excitement, the history, the chase. But when that chase ends with $1 million coin, it's hard not to dream a little bigger. If you're watching this and thinking, there's no way I have one, think again. Coins travel. They pass through thousands of hands. A 2017 P quarter could have started in Philadelphia, made its way through gas stations, vending machines, and pockets across the country, and landed right in your home. All it takes is one.so tonight. When you empty your pockets or open that old coin jar, take a closer look. Check every 2017 P. Ozark Riverways quarter. Tilt it, study it, hold it under the light. Because if you happen to find one of those rare era varieties, your life could change overnight. This is real. The treasure's not buried. It's right in front of us, waiting to be seen by someone who knows what to look for. That's right. A coin you might have used to pay for coffee could actually make you a millionaire. It all started in 2003, when the U.S. Mint released the Maine State Quarter, a tribute to the rugged coastlines, the iconic Pemaquid Point Lighthouse, and the proud history of the Pine Tree State. Millions were minted that year. They were tossed into change jars, vending machines, and parking meters. But hidden among those millions was one single coin that would change everything that no one noticed at first. For years, this special 2003 P. Maine quarter passed through countless hands, grocery clerks, truck drivers, maybe even a kid buying baseball cards. It looked just like any other coin, but under the surface, something was different. A small, almost invisible minting error had transformed this piece of metal into a million-dollar treasure. Here's where things get really interesting. The coin in question wasn't gold or silver. It wasn't encrusted with diamonds. It was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That's what the P Mint mark stands for, and it carried one of the rarest types of minting mistakes ever found on a state quarter. It's called a double die obverse. That means the front design, George Washington's face, was struck twice, just slightly off alignment. To the untrained eye, it's almost impossible to see. But once you know what to look for, it jumps out at you like a secret the mint never meant to reveal. Imagine finding one in your change and not even realizing it. Most people wouldn't. The doubling shows up on Washington's eye, his mouth, and even the word liberty. It gives the coin a ghostly shadow effect, like two images overlapping perfectly out of sync. Collectors call it the whispered face because it looks like Washington's reflection is murmuring a secret from the past. Now, here's the shocking part. The only known 2003 P. Maine double die quarter sold at auction for just over $1.1 million. And experts believe there could still be more of them out there. That's right. One of those quarters could be sitting quietly in your pocket right now. Well, that's the magic and mystery of minting errors. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins every year. A single mechanical slip, a fraction of a second's misalignment, can create a one-of-a-kind coin. And because it's so subtle, it escapes detection. Those coins are released into circulation, lost in the ocean of everyday change. For years, collectors have hunted for these hidden gems. And every so often, one is found. A janitor sweeping a parking lot once discovered a 2003 Maine quarter with faint doubling around the lighthouse beams. He thought it was just a damaged coin until a dealer offered him thousands of dollars on the spot. Stories like that ignite a fire in collectors everywhere. First, flip the coin to the front and look just above Washington's eye. If you notice a faint second outline, like a shadow, you might have something special. Next, look closely at the word Liberty. On the error coin, the letters appear slightly thicker, almost as if they've been struck twice. Finally, use a magnifying glass to inspect the "In God We Trust" motto. On the $1,000,000 version, the doubling creates a slight blur that looks like the words are vibrating. Every time you find an old quarter, you're not just holding change, you're holding a piece of American history. And sometimes, history hides its greatest treasures in plain sight. Maybe more. Each one is a potential story, a mystery waiting to be uncovered. The 2003 Maine quarter is proof that even the most ordinary coin can hold extraordinary value. It's not about luck, it's about awareness. It's about paying attention to the smallest details, because that's where the magic happens. Collectors say that the thrill isn't just in finding the coin, it's in the hunt itself. Every time you sift through your spare change, you're part of a bigger story, one that connects millions of people through curiosity, discovery, and hope. And when you find that 1 in a billion coin, it's like striking gold in your own kitchen drawer. Condition matters. If your 2003 P Maine quarter shows that doubling, but it's scratched or worn, it might still be worth thousands. But a mint condition specimen can climb into the $1,000,000 range. Always handle coins carefully. Never clean them, never polish them. The smallest scratch can mean the difference between a fortune and just pocket change. There's also another twist. Some 2003 P Maine quarters were struck on the wrong metal planchet, meaning the blank piece of metal was meant for a dime, not a quarter. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare and can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, even without the double die feature. So, if your Maine quarter feels lighter than normal or looks slightly smaller, you might have one of those mysterious mismatch strikes. This is what makes coin collecting so powerful. It's not just about money, it's about discovery. Each coin tells a story of the mint worker who pressed the wrong die, of the collector who noticed the mistake decades later, and of the ordinary person who suddenly finds themselves holding a $1,000,000 miracle. A man in Portland, Maine once bought a cup of coffee using his spare change. Later that day, the cashier noticed something strange about one of the quarters. It was that ghostly doubling again. She had it authenticated, and months later, it sold at auction for a life-changing sum. A coin worth $1 turned into a fortune. Every coin you touch could be the next chapter of that story. Maybe the one that slipped under your car seat. Maybe the one your grandkids have in a piggy bank. Maybe the one sitting quietly in your dresser drawer. The only way to know is to look. Carefully, curiously, and with a collector's eye. And that's the beauty of it. The idea that something so small, so ordinary, could hold the power to change a life. That's why this hobby captivates so many of us. Because buried within the everyday, there's treasure. Next time you get change back from the store, don't just toss those coins aside. Examine them. Look for the details. Because you never know when you'll come across that 1 in a million find. The 2003 P Maine quarter has already turned ordinary people into millionaires. And experts say there are still undiscovered errors waiting to surface. $1.2 million, hiding in plain sight. That's the unbelievable truth about the 1995 P Washington quarter. It's the kind of story that sounds like urban legend, a tall tale passed around by collectors and dreamers. But every once in a while, one of these coins turns up. And when it does, it changes everything for the person who finds it. Let's rewind to the mid-1990s, a time before smartphones, when gas was just over $1, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was striking millions of Washington quarters. These were meant to be ordinary coins, part of the everyday hustle of American life. But a few, just a few, came out different. Under the bright lights of the minting presses, a mistake occurred. Some planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, were struck with unusual precision and mirrored surfaces, a proof-like finish not meant for circulation. Others had microscopic errors, doubled dies, misaligned strikes, or planchets made of experimental metals. Most were melted down or lost to time, but a handful slipped into circulation. Those survivors are worth a fortune. Now, here's where it gets eerie. Collectors have documented 1995 P quarters with rare doubling on Washington's face and inscriptions so crisp they seem etched by hand. When light hits the word Liberty, it dances, almost like a hologram. Flip it over, and you might see faint die cracks or a slight off-center strike around the eagle's wings. To the untrained eye, it looks like pocket change. To an expert, it's a golden ticket. Imagine the moment of discovery. A guy empties his change jar, sorting through coins for the first time in years. He's got a magnifying glass, maybe a cup of coffee, and no expectations. Then he spots something, a shimmer, a difference. He looks closer, realizes it's a 1995 P, and feels his pulse quicken. He compares it to a reference photo online, and that's when it hits him. His quarter could be worth over $1 million. That it's not about luck. It's about knowing what to look for. So let's break it down. First, check for the P mint mark on the obverse, right next to Washington's ponytail. That tiny letter tells you it was struck in Philadelphia. Next, under magnification, study the details, the edges of the letters, the eye, and especially the word "In God We Trust." A rare double die quarter will show clear, separate impressions of those letters. It's not blur or wear, it's doubling, and it's worth serious money. Some versions have extremely high-grade surfaces, no scratches, no dents, just mirror-like perfection. These are known as specimen strikes, and they're the holy grail. Collectors have paid hundreds of thousands for less. The top-graded 1995 P specimens, authenticated by grading companies like PCGS or NGC, have crossed the seven-figure mark. That's right, over $1 million for 25 cents. Well, that's the beauty of coin collecting. History doesn't always reveal itself. It hides in pockets, drawers, coffee cans, and glove boxes. Some of these rare 1995 P quarters are probably sitting in change jars across America right now, waiting for someone curious enough to look. Picture yourself discovering one. You're sitting at your kitchen table, flipping through coins. Maybe you inherited a box from your parents or grandparents. Maybe you're just cleaning out an old piggy bank. Suddenly, there it is, the faint P mark, the perfect luster, the doubled letters. Your heart skips a beat. You hold it under the light, and for a moment, time stands still. You don't just see a coin. You see a story of the mint worker who struck it, the decades it's traveled unnoticed, and the life-changing moment it's now brought to you. That's the power of numismatics. Now here's another twist. Some 1995 P quarters were struck on experimental planchets, possibly leftover from other coin denominations. These rare transitional errors can show strange metal tones, a slightly golden hue, or unusual weight. If your 1995 P looks different from the rest, don't ignore it. Weigh it on a scale. If it's not exactly 5.67 grams, you could be holding a multi-million-dollar error. Think about that. One coin, one unnoticed mistake, worth more than most people's homes. It's unbelievable, but it's happened before. In 2018, a collector found a rare quarter in circulation that sold for over $1 million. The market for these coins isn't just strong, it's exploding. Collectors aged 30 to 70 are rediscovering the thrill of treasure hunting, and quarters like the 1995 P are fueling that fire. Every collector knows the rush, that split second between doubt and discovery. The moment you realize your pocket change might just change your life. So if you're watching this, take this as your sign. Go through your coins. Check your 1995 quarters carefully. Look for that P mint mark, the double details, the flawless surface. If it looks too perfect to be real, it just might be, because these coins are more than metal. They're time capsules. They connect us to history, craftsmanship, and the pure thrill of the hunt. And maybe, just maybe, to $1 million surprise. Collectors say the 1995 P quarter is a ghost of the mint, rare, mysterious, and powerful enough to change lives. Maybe you'll be the next one to find it. After all, someone out there has to. Someone's pocket change is holding history.